we have all signed up for newsletters here. We've signed up for newsletters in general. We've signed up for writing newsletters, and there are tips and there are tricks, and we've learned things. Part of us, it's how we got here in the first place. And some of that was my inspiration for this newsletter, but a lot of it wasn't. A lot of it was things that I was thinking about, pondering on, and that's what I want to talk about. That there is something that's underneath the story that just got its hooks in us, and whether we know it or not, acknowledge it or not, it's a part of why we're storytellers. And that inspired me. So I'm letting you know right now, I got my notes up. I have my coffee, and we're gonna just like rock this thing out. This is a part of me, number one, showing up, writing this newsletter, doing it, giving it to you the way that I have it. And this is not about a perfect presentation, but I think this is going to hit. I'm always aiming for you to be nodding along, and you like, you know what? She's onto something there. So that's what we're going for. Just in case you're new around these here parts, my name is Dana. I'm a USA Today bestselling author. I'm a developmental editor, and I am the chief storyteller at Danja Tales, where we help romance and fantasy authors write addictive novels. And we call these novels those kind of stories that your readers cannot help but to gobble up and share with their reading friends. I'm always asked whether I work with other authors. I do. I have clients that do epic fantasy and cozy and mystery and thrillers, but the bulk of the writers that I work with are in romance. I would say if I had to give you a percentage, like 85% is romance. And romance, that's just my jam. It's what I love to read. It's what I love to work with. And so yeah, that's who I am. I've been doing this over 20 years. I am an author, I'm an editor, I'm a book coach, I am an avid reader. And so that all funnels into everything that I do. And it's a blessing, and I'm lucky in a sense. And well, I'm not necessarily luck because we work hard to get here, but I'm fortunate, and it's a blessing to be able to sort of do what I love to do and help others to do the same. So, what sort of kicked this off is number one, because I tried adding a video here before and it didn't show up right. And I'm hoping that this can give you an introduction into this space. The second thing is because we are on the eve of a reading challenge, our summer reading for this coming summer in DTW, which is Danja Tales Writers. And what we are doing is reading our triple threat, which I'll tell you a little bit about. And I thought this would be a great time to come in and do this introduction and to also weave this all together, like bring my world together under one umbrella, sort of one post. It's always great to have those moments when you have this synergy. It's helpful for me in a way that it helps me to stay connected and rooted. And I think it's helpful for you if you're following me in the different places to see why each of the spaces are different, but how they're always in the same sort of pocket, like they are hitting that same rhythm. And so, in our writing community, we are doing our summer reading, and we are reading, we're talking about books, we're doing the things that are about being slow and deliberate when it comes to understanding what you're writing and what your readers are looking for. And so it made me think about, and this is something that I think about a lot, which is, you know, why why do we write what we want to write? Like what influences us? What are the books that we reach for? What are the books that our readers reach for? And And part of that for me, not just in what I reach for, what are the things that I started reading that started making me think differently and seeing story differently and starting to like recognize the ingredients and it recognize the parts that make up the whole. And that is sort of what made me decide to write this newsletter because I'm always reading and I'm always studying, even when I don't realize I'm studying. Um, that I stop and I wonder and I think about it and I spoil many movies for my husband unintentionally. And now it's become the thing that we do. And so the goal that I sort of have to kind of keep me focused is I want you to leave this video knowing exactly what story beneath the story is, who it's for, and why I think it's going to change how you see story. In this one newsletter that we have a very clear lens and that we're on the same page, right? That we're rocking together. And so what this isn't that's a good place to start. Like what it isn't is most writing content teaches you what to do. And we need that. We need structure. We need to know our beats. If you're in romance, you need to understand that rhythm. No matter what genre you're in, understanding your reader expectations is what I feel like every writer should know because we're always aiming to be at that intersection between what you want to write and what readers want to read, at least in any space that I occupy. That is always one of my goals. And so it matters. But here, what I notice in years of working with writers as a developmental editor is that writers who get better fastest aren't the ones who follow the most rules, right? Um, it's the ones who learn what is underneath the surface. When you start understanding and asking different questions, and when you learn how to take those answers and turn them into words on the page. And so part of this is that, yes, we want to be technically in that pocket, but we also want to make sure that we are connecting with our readers and that not honestly, not just connecting with them, connecting with ourselves too, right? And so there are going to be some scenes that hit all of those check boxes, but they fail at like getting to the heart of it or being a moment where your readers lean in and they really start trusting you with their time because if they're reading your book and reading your story, they are trusting you with their time. They're also trusting you with their finances because everybody right now, and especially, it's about that coin. Um, them spending their money on your book is also trusting you with that. And I think ultimately, there's a part of us when we go into a reading experience, we're looking for something. And every story has a different something, but they were looking for something and they're trusting you to deliver that. And so the question that changes everything is not what happens next, but what does the reader need to feel right now? That thing that they're looking for. And so there's a version of writing that teaches you to execute, and there is newsletters like what I'm writing here that is aiming to teach you to understand what that is. And listen, I'm gonna keep it a buck that that's a tall order and it makes me nervous. And I think that's a good thing because it keeps me honest and it keeps me asking the hard questions and it keeps me willing to revise, look for a better angle, look for a better example. Like tell all my business sometimes to make the point crystal clear. Um, and I think that's dope. And I think it's what makes me always cautious, but also leaning in and willing to be in this space. And so here's what story beneath the story is. Um, in the beginning, I wanted to do every week. And I'm going to be really, really honest that I think realistically 2 to 3 times a month. Some months will be two because I realize these essays take me a long time. Who knew? Like sometimes I find the essay takes more work than writing a whole story. Because sometimes I feel like gorilla, let her cook. I need to cook a little bit before it lands. So literally right now, I have like 4 or 5 essays that are in that cooking stage. So y'all gotta let her cook a little bit. And I had to extend grace to myself. And I hope you understand, but I had to extend grace to myself because if I felt the pressure to have to do every single week, and that takes a lot of, we know how that goes. Like it takes a lot of that creative love from it, and I honestly think in some parts, in some ways, it takes some of that honesty out of it because you're trying to just deliver on a deadline and not in a way where I feel like this is ready. This is ready to go to you. So at least twice a month, I am going to pick something to bring to you in essay form about story. I'm going to be looking at a pattern, a question, an observation, something that has been turning over in my head. And I will follow it all the way down as far as I can go. Sometimes it's a framework, sometimes it ends with more questions. A lot of times I'm then ending up with a structure that I can give you if you're one of the paid subscribers, a story card where you can ask yourself some questions and then take that answer and bring it to the page. Sometimes it's about you, sometimes it's about story, sometimes it's about character, and I'm sure over time that will evolve a little bit, but that is where we are at the time of me recording this. And we are we are also going to have me bringing stories to you as well. Some of the stories that give me inspiration or things where I just see something very specific, and I'm really excited about bringing that. It's been harder to do than I anticipated, but one of the essays that I'm working on right now about secondary characters in a particular book, y'all, is fire because it took me reading the story 3 or 4 times to be like, "Oh, this is what it is." And so that's coming as well. And so this isn't about like, here's a tip, here's how you apply it, even though I'm sure at some level they are tips. But ultimately, it's about like what's underneath the story. What am I seeing? What is that current that I'm feeling? How do you describe it? How do I think we get there? And trying to turn that into words. And so this means that we're thinking about reader psychology, emotional architecture, and the reason readers respond the way that they do. And a lot of times, the reason why we respond that the way that we do. I don't know if it's up yet, but I have an essay where I'm talking about um, one of the reasons why I believe we have writer's block. And that essay isn't about readers, even though us and maybe our inability to complete the story that we're working on or the thing that is in front of us will affect the reader ultimately. But it's about what's going on inside us that can keep us from bringing what we want to bring to the page. And and a minor caveat to that is that, y'all, I don't know all the things about all the things, but I know what I know. And also I can't let that stop me. I'm finding that allowing myself to go there is why I'm able to bring the ideas to the page and also creating these story cards, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But in the end, there is an essay and there's also story cards, and those story cards are usually something like frameworks. It may be a checklist. It may be prompts for questions for you to ask yourself. And ultimately, it's what I think will help you get to the page in a way that you feel good about and you feel inspired by, and not going just off of muse and adrenaline, but finding a consistency and a flow that allows you to tell all the stories that you have wanted to tell. Okay. And so that story card is about application, and that's what we're bringing here. So over time, you are sort of building this deck, and that has also been really fun for me to do and challenging. But we're building this deck so that it's not about individual issues or individual cards, but how they all come together to help you to tell the story that you've always wanted to tell, and what it feels like to have the right questions that get you at the right moment and maybe help you to get unstuck or help you to see something from a new angle that helps you to execute better. And so here is what I see when writers don't have this being a space to consider the tools that they need to make it happen. Um, that you can execute, but it may be that you feel like something is missing. It may be that you write a story and you find that you're writing and rewriting, or you're redrafting over and over again because there is something that you can't quite put your finger on and you don't have the words yet to explain it. So, therefore, you don't have the tools and the resources that you need to address it and to get on the other side of it, right? That essentially that it just doesn't connect. And I don't know. I think this is where sometimes I can feel like, uh-oh, I'm gonna get on a soapbox, or this is like Dana woo woo. Right. Right. Like there's this big difference between like finishing a draft and finishing a draft that you know crushed it, right? We can have all kinds of drafts. We all have drafts on drafts that sometimes on our computers, but there are the stories where you feel like, you know what? I put it like when they say a dancer that they left it all on the stage, like the writer, I left it all on the stage, and feeling good about that. Even though it's not about perfection, it's about being the best representation of where you are in that moment as a writer. And so craft, it instructs us and teaches us how to sort of build that. But I think where this newsletter can help you is sort of understanding the ligaments and the joints and the and the tissue that sort of connect them, that connect you to that moment, that connect your intention to that moment, that connects the themes that you like to explore, the heart behind, the soul behind what you write. And I think, if I'm really being honest, that this feels different when you're talking about it in a space through a lens of fiction. I think you'd hear it a lot in nonfiction, especially if you are someone writing a memoir, or you are even telling your story in a fictional in state, like in a through a novel. But I'm talking about, listen, I write romance, right? I'm chandelier swinging. We're writing steamy romance here. And I still believe that this is true, that there is a part of us that we're exploring. There are questions that we are answering. And we get to share that space with each other through reading, like each other, as in writers to writers, readers to writers, readers to readers, when they share books with each other. And these are different skills, and we need both. And so here's what I want for the writers who find this newsletter and find me. First of all, hey girl, hey, or hey guy, hey, because I know we got a mix bag here. Hey, and welcome. I want you to become the kind of reader who um who can't turn it off, like that your mind is always sort of thinking about bits and pieces in a way that you don't have to chase the story, but the story will start chasing you. I love that. I love when a story chases me. Because the other way around, listen, it is shenanigans and it is mayhem. But when a story is chasing you down, you are that girl. You are that guy. You know what I'm saying? And I want you to be the kind of writer who picks up a book and within a few pages, you have a feeling about what this story is and what it's doing and why. And this isn't about a checklist, and this isn't about beats, but it's sort of like synergy, and it's energy, and it's being intentional, and ultimately it's about meeting the writer version of yourself. Yeah, I love, yeah, I could talk about this forever, but I'm not. Okay. And this is part of where this reading challenge comes in. It's also why I've decided to do this video now, because this reading challenge is coming on the heels of us having a workshop in DTW about to stop trying to write something different. And it's not about writing something different, but writing something that is uniquely you. And I can't get into all of it. You will see a post around here somewhere, because you're gonna find this at any given time, where I will post the video, the bonus video around me picking my reading list for the summer. But the reason why this connects to this newsletter is because it is all sort of food for thought. It's input. It's taking in great stories. It's not just reading what's on the page, but reading what's underneath it. And that is what this newsletter is about, right? It's about your writer instincts and sharpening those. And it becomes one of your greatest tools and one of your greatest assets. And here we're doing that issue by issue, card by card. So here's what I want you to do, okay? If you're already a subscriber, go ahead, dive in. I am so glad that I waited to do this video after having several essays in the pocket, in the bag, and several more that's in the works, because you can see what, you know, this newsletter is about, and read it with a question in your head of, what does this essay change about how I see story? I want you to carry that question every single time you read an essay here. I would love to see you letting me know in the comments. I would love to see any questions that you have that will give me more to chew on and more to consider. Okay. And if you're watching this either on YouTube or in one of our communities or on my newsletter, and you are not subscribed yet, the link is in the description. And I'm saying, what are you doing with your life? Come on. Come on over. Come and be a part of this, because at the heart of it, I think it gets to something much deeper. And And the deeper aspect of this is what I believe only you can contribute to this space. Only you. And we need that from you so that we can become the writers that we are called to be. And I'm not going to get on that soapbox, but that's what I believe. And if you are inside of Danja Tales Writers, you are already in the throes of starting this reading challenge. And so this newsletter is sort of like a companion and a reminder of why we do what we're doing, why we are reading, and it may even help you to rethink through some of your reading selections. So, the story beneath the story isn't just a newsletter title, it's the question, right? What is actually happening underneath the story you're reading? And what does knowing that change about the story you're writing? If you want to go deeper, if you want to be in a community of writers who are doing this work every week, not just reading about it, Danger Tales Writers is where that lives. We write, we read, we talk about craft at the level this newsletter is pointing out. And the link is going to be in this, in the description or in this newsletter. And so there you have it. Your girl is out. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I know that you could have been in a million places, but you decided to be here, and I do not take that lightly. So go ahead and go to the comments and tell me, what's a book that completely wrecked you? And do you know why? I want to know. As always, I read every single comment. And so I'm out. I will see you all really, really soon. Take care. And as always, happy writing. Goodbye.